A little bit of staining, nothing big. And you got to remember that a lot of these pieces are going to be, these pieces that I do are meant to be aged. They're meant to be antiqued. They're meant to be looking old. And so I want to do pulls and scarring effects and different things without touching the integrity of these pieces. And you'll see that a lot of what I'm doing is specifically designed. I've never had that happen before. Stuck directly to my surface there. You just don't necessarily want to do a whole lot to the edges, but what you do want to do is we want to get a nice sheen coat on this, and this is going to absorb. And we're just doing back and forth and back and forth. And what this is going to do is it's going to pull a grain into the antiquing. And so the idea here is that it's going to look weathered and worn, but it's also going to look like wood by the time we're done. And that's the goal. Is the name of this is Lantern Oak. So we want it to soak in. We want it to become an oak type of quality here. So, and the nice part is we can just go right along the edges that we beveled. And we're not trying to get it all the way down over that edge. We just want some of that color to really show along those edges. Okay. Now this stuck again, so I'm just lifting it up so we can get it off of there. And that's going to be a beautiful piece by the time we're done. Look at that. Now there's one edge, one corner right there that I want to make sure it gets some extra love. And you'll see that these are going to be a little bit lighter on this go around. We're looking for that edge to maintain its color. And you know, these are all going to be, this look is going to really pop once we get that color on there. And some of these areas you just want to pull through. So it's going to look like we've got a wood grain pulling across the top of that there. And there we go. And that gives us a nice smooth quality to it. All right, so for our next one, just using the same piece, not a whole lot. And we're pulling along grain here. There we go. Some of these areas get darker, some are lighter, and that lends to worn, weathered, aged, all of those synonyms for what we're going for here. We're pulling just a tad of this up so that it looks finished. There we go. Again, we're not trying to do those edges too much. Just trying to get a nice shine to it. And the edges can pick up color. That's not what I'm saying. No, don't mishear what I'm saying. But the edges don't need all of that because, again, we're going to be using tokenol. So we really want to make sure that those edges are open enough to receive the tokenol without closing. Notice I'm pulling side to side. We're going to see what sticks, what doesn't, what gives nice color, and almost, some of these areas are just, they soak in and they find the imperfections. People are always like, well, I want my leather to be perfect. Leather isn't meant to be perfect. It never was. Leather is meant to be used, worn, rugged, and last for a long time. So the cool part about doing leather this way is that it allows for colors that pop on purpose, and they hide grains, they hide character. And if you do leather in other ways, don't get me wrong, they produce beautiful pieces, but you're never going to quite get what's being done in some of these. Some of these places where if you just let the natural order of things move in. See, because we get light spots in there, we've got dark spots, we've got pull through and color, and this looks kind of like a piece of wood already. And that's the idea, is we're just darkening this up not lightly enough to pull the natural colors and some light areas and dark areas through and really get this to shine. And notice we're not leaving extra on here. We're pulling it in and out. So this isn't, gonna stay or look like this exactly, but that's not the point. The point is to get good color. Now you'll see I just hit the table over here, and I'm not gonna move my piece, but I am going to pull. As soon as I'm done here, I'm going to clean that spot. All right, I don't have enough room on here to clean, so I'm going to get another piece. And the reason I try to keep it away from the excess. So again, we're pulling across, darkening some edges, leaving some areas light, and that is going to give us a piece that is weathered, worn, aged with use, and looks beautiful. And here's the funny thing. So, remember how I said what I said on the front? Mink oil. Normally, that would stain really bad. This comes right off with a little bit of elbow grease. And that is why you use mink oil. It keeps those edges nice. And it's even got a gloss and sheen to it, almost like a cut and prepared piece of wood. And that gives us exactly the flavor we're going for. excesses off of my gloves here. All right. Part of the process here is to make sure that the leather dye that we're using actually sticks, which is going to be saddle tan. Now the funny part about this is that saddle tan, while in and of itself, is going to be much lighter than mahogany. Saddle tan, when applied to a darker surface, gives it a much deeper color and doesn't make it look like a brand new piece of leather. But what we're doing is we're actually applying a resist first. We're using Resolene as our resist. So we just take a piece here, fold it over on itself, and we're just going to apply this in an even coat fairly thinly across the top, and that's going to bring out some of that color that wasn't there before. It lightens it significantly, as you can tell, but it's going to cause this grain texture to come up and out. And that's what we're looking for, is that grain texture. And that's going to be great right there. Okay, set that aside, and we'll go to our next piece here. The nice part is that anything that's super dark is going to darken quite a bit. And look at that. That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Now it looks like that, and it provides resist, but it also scrubs out the dark texture areas, some of which might be too dark, and kind of gives us a nicer quality. And some of those darker areas, actually, because of doing this across a little bit, they technically darken just a little bit. And that is going to be a beautiful piece as well. All right, so I'm going to leave our Resolene to the side. Again, always make sure you put the lids on things. I learned that the hard way. Now, funnest part of the process is the next two steps. First off, we'll take a nice folded paper towel here, and I'm going to show you something which is the reason why my leather looks the way it does. So we fold it all the way across like that, and that's it. There's not a whole lot more than that, but notice that I am now folding to where half of this is being used. See, there's one on that side and one on that side, but there is a large unused chunk in between. And what that allows is two pieces, two places where these are able to be used, but significantly less than we'd be using before. And as you can see, I'm pulling along with this grain, and it darkens it enough for the second coat. Okay. All right, that's a very good start. Isn't that color beautiful? It's a lot darker. We're going to go darker with it, but the reason I'm doing this in layers and basically putting on just enough is so that I don't overdo it. So we're going to start, and just a quick apply here. Put Now this comes out almost orange, and that's okay. We're going to be working this into our leather here, and it's going to come out, as I said, much darker and give us that nearly oak finish that we were talking about. One of the reasons I call it lantern oak is because it's the idea of lantern light being put on oak. So it's not super dark like oak tends to be. It's got a much lighter hue to it, but it is going to darken, and that's what we want. We want that place where this looks like it's aged, it's worn, it's got cracks and crevices, and beautiful delaminations in it, and a wood grain, as if this was cut from a piece of wood and then bent into place. There we go. Look at that. That's the color we're going for. So let me move this here. This is one of those precarious projects where you have to be gentle and careful with what we're doing, making sure that that bottle stays out of arm's reach and length, so that it gets this edge, this leather, really nice and cooked. Now, that's what we're going for, this end up here. So I'm pulling one direction. So this is going to produce that beautiful oak veneer that we're going for. Look at that. That is a beautiful piece, and that matches what we've done so far. And just one more to kind of darken this initial test piece. This is kind of what this turned out to be. Because this is going to be our front-facing piece, so we want to give it a slight more pop to it. And look at that. Again, beautiful. Looks like I came right through the thumb of my glove. Good news is the next part is less volatile than the previous parts we've done, so I can easily throw this glove away. But the rigors of working with leather is that sometimes you get a little bit of leather, or a little bit of dye on your hands. Throw both of these away, actually. Okay. The fun thing is that at this point these are pretty much dry, so I'm not worried about it. You can even see that there's not. I can put my hand directly on it. I'm not pulling up any stain on my hand when I do that, which is great. All right, so we're going to go back to. I'm actually going to use a new one for this. Paper towels are cheap, so this works out in my favor. And we're going to do one last coat of Resin, and that's going to really give us a nice shine to this leather. Yes, it's going to shine it, but again, this is technically new leather. We're antiquing it, but it's still new leather, so I want it to look good once we get it going here. And this is going to make those colors pop, really pop. And if you can see that on camera, that just warms the entire piece right there. Yep, that is the look we were going for. That's why I said that these two steps, the Resin and the dye themselves, are my favorite steps because it gives such a shine to this piece. All right, let's actually pretty close here. We've only got a couple more steps to do. I'm just gonna do that a little bit more. And look at that. Beautiful, shiny, ready to go. Now that shine is going to come off a little bit. It is going to slightly saturate into the leather, so it's going to be finished, but it's not going to be glaringly bright by any standard. And that's why one of the reasons I love straps is that this just immediately says, all right, that's perfect. Now, you'll notice that I'm using the same range for the same stuff because I'm treating this as the same piece of leather. It came from the same cow, it came from the same piece that I was working with, so this is the same. There we go. And we don't need to be wasteful either. And that is beautiful. Now those three pieces are ready almost for assembly. The last part of this finishing process for the